Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. Today, I have on my friend Leone, and she's here to share a story about her recent trip to Peru.
I'm a surfer and I went to Peru because I've heard that they have the longest surf wave in the world that goes left. So they're called the longest left in the world. And that's at a place called Chicama. And Chicama is just out of sort of north of Lima, and you have to catch a plane to get there. So it's quite a journey. I was coming all the way from San Francisco. So it was about 24 hours of travel. But when I got there, it was blowing a gale and we were staying in a hotel right at the beach. And I was like, we can't be going out in this type of weather for sure. And so I arrived at night and I didn't even see the beach. And then we were told, okay, I was there with a bunch of other women that, like me, look for adventure with surfing. And we were all very excited to be there. But when I woke up in the morning and I heard the howling gale, I was like, there's no way we're going out there. And I peeked down and saw the waves. And I was like, oh my God, those are huge waves. And the spray was pushing back against the waves and making them even larger. And I'm like, we can't be going in on that. And then I saw all my fellow surfers like making their way down to the meeting point. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm going. And so I'm putting on my wetsuit, which I hadn't done in a very long time. And it was a major wrestling match to get it on. I get down to the meeting point and I was so excited and so nervous at the same time. I'd actually put my wetsuit on backwards and someone gently told me that I had done that. So anyway, I'm sitting there and looking at the waves. We're up on a hill looking down to the beach. And so the waves, I was like, okay, they seem pretty big, but maybe not that big. Well, turns out they were 6 to 8 feet waves, which look always small from the shore until you get out there. But I felt good because we had these really excellent coaches that came with the organization that I went with. So they were there with me, but it was still very challenging as we got down to the beach. And then I saw how big the waves really were. They told us that we needed to paddle out to a channel, which is basically go through all the white water and make our way out to a channel where there would be a Zodiac boat to take us out to the point because it's about a mile out. And so they were like, okay, you just got to get in the water and start paddling. And I just met my board. Like usually boards are quite personal if you surf. And I named mine Biggie because it was a really big board. And I checked my leg rope, which you always have attached to you because you want to make sure that, you don't lose it. And I told my partner before I left, she said, well, aren't you worried you're going to drown in these big waves? And I said, no, because you've always got your surfboard with you, right? So I start paddling out. The waves are huge. They keep knocking me back. I can't seem to get my breath and they knock me off my board and I keep paddling and I can see the boat. It's like 50 feet away, but I just can't get to it. I'm stuck in this water. And then I'm paddling this board. And then I feel the tug, which you normally feel because it's, thing around your ankle. And then I feel nothing. And I'm like, oh my God, I've lost my board out in the middle of the ocean in these waves. So I try not to panic. I was just trying to calm myself because it's, the last thing you want to do is lose your board. So I waved some people down to get my board and hopefully help me to get it back on it because it had gone all the way to shore and I was sitting there. I'm a reasonably good swimmer, but you start panicking in that type of situation. So they got me on my board, thankfully, and I managed to get out to the boat and I slipped over the side like a landlocked sea lion because I was like so tired. And I lay there and I'm like, oh my God, I am so tired. And this is like day one, first paddle out. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. But then I told myself, look, you've come all this way. You've actually got to at least go out and catch a wave. So they gave me a leg rope from one of the other coaches. And so I went out, caught some waves, which was great. But then I got caught in the zone again. And it was almost to the point where I felt like giving up. I was like, I can't do this. And you're way out there in the ocean, and they're like, no, you got to keep going. But I paddled way out to the right, away. Finally got out, and I went way away, like where you would be nowhere near any waves. But then I was nowhere near a boat, and so I'm waving to the boats to come and take me out to the waves, but nobody's coming. And then this guy comes on this boat, like flying up, and he wasn't one of our boats, and he does this big circle and he comes back, he goes, I'll help you. Like he was Peruvian guy, had this big helmet on and a big vest on, like he looks like he's ready for combat, and he had this big smile, and he goes, and he pulled me into the boat, And I think he must have known that I was not feeling so good about my situation because he said, let's have some fun. So then he takes me out on the waves and we start surfing the waves. Like it's just him and I surfing the waves in the Zodiac boat, like these big waves. And he had this big smile, and I'm in the front, barely holding on and saying, it was like this amazing experience. And we did it twice. And all my surfing friends were like, what is going on? What are you doing? And but it was an amazing time. And it was just this energy thing where it was like, he made me feel like this is fun and you deserve to be here. And then I learned later that he was actually a legendary Peruvian surfer from the area. And now he does that for his job. And so he saw that I needed something. And I just really remember that and just how it can change your energy, right? When you have somebody who gives you that type of experience. So that was day one. And so I had a whole week of amazing experiences of putting myself in a vulnerable position. So we would surf in the morning, and then in the afternoons, we had a lot of downtime. So I would walk the beach. It was a very long beach, and it was Chicama is a very small sort of surfing slash fishing village. And so lots of Peruvian people around, very local sort of vibe, really cool. So I got a lot of time in the afternoons to really reflect on things. And there was a shift for me being there. I think it's a combination of it's a soulful place, just really raw but soulful, that got me to expand out of where I am. I work in the corporate world. I have a corporate job, there. So it was actually great to have that time to just expand. I actually have been doing sort of life coaching training, and I almost quit because I felt I just don't have the room for that. But when I was there, I realized like this is something I really want to do. I really, really want to expand, and I really want to gain more knowledge about how I can help people and be a life coach. So one of those walks on the beaches was when I made the decision, and it was an intuitive decision that I want to become more trained and be a life coach as well. And all the decisions about how I do it, when I do it, that's later, but I focus on what was my intuition. And so coming out of that, I really have leaned into my life coaching training. I now have clients, that I've been working with. So it's amazing how your energy can shift. The second thing was, as part of the group of women I was with, you had to introduce yourself and tell them something interesting about yourself. And normally I would say something around maybe my sporting career, things that I've done, or about my children. But I chose, I'm writing a book. I'm writing a book, and I named the book, which was Take a Chance on You, which everybody asked me in later discussions what was about. And so then that led to more conversations with people who were so interested to learn around taking a chance for women, which is what the book's about. So I would say it was the surfing and the vulnerability, the people, the spirit there, just, I don't know, all those things together had me come back feeling a lot more, I don't know if it's call it zen or just really in touch with who I truly am. And because before I left, I was super anxious. I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. Those things are still here for me, and I've returned back, but they're affecting me differently. They don't affect me the same way. And I feel like there's a combination of this decision to really lean into my life coaching, to really want to help people. Putting yourself in a vulnerable situation really lends itself for you to have those expansions and open yourself up to other possibilities.
Awesome. I'm kind of hearing, I think that guy kind of just set the tone of your whole trip, right?
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. He was so free, and it was so impromptu, like just out of nowhere, right? Like I was like, oh, just take me back to shore, like was almost what I was trying to say to him. And he didn't really understand English very well. And he was like, no, let's have some fun. And you're right. I think that, yeah, I agree with that. Totally agree with that.
Yeah, and that's so cool. So, is it that impact that he had on you that's kind of like, "Ooh, I can have this impact on other people as well?"
I don't know if I join the dots like that as much than the sheer vulnerability that I allowed myself to be in, which then led myself to be more expansive around how to help others. I think that was more the connection. He just helped me along my way with that, I feel, is part of that.
Yeah. So what was the rest of the week like? It was a lot more surfing. You kind of brushed over, I think, the surfing experience you had the rest of the week. How did
Mm.
that impact you and your decision as well?
Every day was a new physical challenge and actually got more tired as the week went on, but my surfing was great. I mean, I had some really good rides and because it's a really long ride. So I think that was really great. But I think on top of that was the value of the other things we got to do. So we went to a burial site where there had been history from thousands of years ago, and we learnt a lot about what actually has happened in parts of Peru, especially in the area that we're in. We got to make surfboards from a traditional way. They used to make them thousands of years ago using reeds. So we got to meet a local Peruvian who was trying to keep that alive, and we tried to surf on those. What if they were made of, looked like made of straw, but they were like surfboards. And so there was just a lot of experiences like that. And we also did a cacao ceremony, which is basically a woman who was from the mountainous areas of Peru brought the cacao down, and we did a whole ceremony around that, which was very spiritual. So there was definitely the surfing, physical challenge, loving the ways that I was getting to ride. It was amazing. But all the other experiences that went with it. And lastly was the connection with the other women. It's not as regular or common now for you to have that much dedicated time with a group of kick-ass women who are there without any other distractions. You're having, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, meaningful conversations and those connections over breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then you're also together being super vulnerable out in the waves. Some were better at surfing than others, but all that, together brought a connection for the women that were there as well.
And I think a huge part of retreats is actually the physical discomfort. I think a lot of retreats tend to be too cushy and
Yeah.
just like spa and relaxation, and you're not
Yeah.
really overcoming anything. You can be vulnerable, but it's like it's the overcoming of something physical that also helps lead you to these great, huge breakthroughs as well, right?
I would agree with that. And actually, one of the women in our group got injured pretty badly. And it was interesting how everybody gathered around that and really made sure that she was okay. But again, we all could have been in that situation. I mean, she basically had a really bad contusion. It wasn't like she had to spend weeks in hospital, but it was really knowing that you were putting yourself to your point in a physical danger, but also physical challenge, and that then having you go from this physical challenge to this amazing feeling, like when you catch a wave and you're catching a really awesome wave that you never thought you could catch, and just those combination of things really cracks you open.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you know that I tried to do an ultra. Well, I completed my ultra. I did 50 kilometers, and it's just that even just setting the goal of something you really think you probably can't do and then actually doing it, it just pushes you to another level and just continues to teach you. Like you continue to teach yourself that you're capable of all of these things. It's such a huge driving force to growth, like the physical challenges as well.
Absolutely agree with that. And so that's why I've shied away. Like I've had opportunities to go to amazing retreats where they're just retreats. And I'm like, no, that's not going to do it for me. I kind of need the physical piece to make it work. I feel. I mean, I should give it a try, I guess. But any corporate retreat I've done, I've not got to anywhere near, this level of reflection on myself.
Because those corporate conferences or retreats are still supposed to be about connection, right? But it's just not, you don't
Yes.
connect in the same way at all.
No way. No way. Yeah.
So you said earlier that you have started life coaching and you have a couple of clients already. What is the impact that you feel like you want to embark on these people?
Is seeing that everybody I feel with the coaching I'm doing, they have the answers within themselves. And all I see is myself is a guide for those answers to come out and for them to find their own journey. And to me, that's what coaching's about. And to see that happen for people is super rewarding for me, knowing that they are the ones I've just helped it come out, right? Like really, they have the answers within themselves, and to see them make progress and things that maybe they've been stuck on really is awesome to see. And I just love seeing, yeah, especially women, which I've been focusing on, especially most of these are successful women in their own way. And they have just, there's just some things that they are lacking. And, my role I see is like, I'm like the personal trainer in the gym. You already decided to join the gym, and
Mhm.
I'm there to make you stronger and better, but you already decided you wanted to do that, as opposed to like a therapist, which is, here's what you want to work on, what happened to you in the past, right? Mine is more around, let's get you better at whatever it is that you might be stuck on.
I agree with you. Like, people have all of their answers within themselves, and they kind of already know which direction they wanna go in. You just need the validation and the reminder that you you already know. Because when I look back at myself, like, all of the things that I'm loving right now, I loved when I was 15. I just told myself I couldn't do it when I was
Mm.
15, but I'm just back in that same spot. It's so funny.
It's really interesting. I'd love to take that same reflection for myself, because I don't even know what the hell. At 15, was I even having thoughts about, like, nowhere near where I am? I mean, I was surfing back then, but like, life was very different. I was living in New Zealand, but that's really cool. That's really awesome. But I do think everybody knows what they want.
Yeah.
They just, sometimes they need a little um, help is all. It is very hard when you've been in corporate America most of your life, where you're like, this is what you're going to do, and we're going to work on this together. There's times when you in corporate world where you need to be a coach. Sometimes you need to be a mentor, and sometimes you just need to delegate and get it done. And so you have to, be mindful of which one you're in. And I think in coaching, it can be a little bit like that. Some days you're coaching, sometimes you're mentoring, sometimes you're a consultant, depending on your background and your skill sets. So, but it's really hard not to jump in with the answers when you see it, right? And so, because you might be wrong too. So you got to sort of allow people to, keep asking the questions and get them directed in the right way they want to go.
Yeah, you can't tell people what they want because he might be wrong.
Exactly. I mean, you can certainly get, tell me if I'm wrong, what have I said what is not aligned with how you're really thinking about it. But that's part of my challenge, is to not, that's what I'm still learning, not
Mhm.
to jump in.
Okay, and you mentioned earlier that you're writing a book. Tell us more about that.
Yes. So I'm writing a book called Take a Chance on You. And the reason why I wanted to write this was because I feel that women don't often enough take chances on themselves. And so what I wanted to do was do a little bit of some storytelling around how that has been for me, and then other women that I know. And then what were the key conduits for the things that really got them to the point of actually making the decision and taking a chance on themselves. And I think most people have a doubt about, I'm not good enough, I'll never do it, I can't do it, right? And so having tools and ways to help women get through some of that, where they actually take the chance on themselves, and make sure I can do that through storytelling so they can see. I think just having real good examples is always the best way to do that.
You said women generally don't take chances on themselves because they just feel like they're not good enough. Is that the main reason?
I think some of my research has really been telling, that those who are really good at making decisions tend to have made micro decisions along the way up to that big decision that gave them the confidence that no matter what way it went based on the decision, they were going to be fine. But the women who haven't had that experience of making many decisions, good or bad, and working out and not working out, they only see one way, that it's going to be bad. And if it's bad, I'm not going to be able to handle it. But so that's why I think that women in general tend to shy away from some things and not do them, because they haven't had the experience of making micro decisions along the way.
That makes a lot of
Or making a big decision and seeing it as a learning opportunity, and, oh, it didn't go that well, but I still survived. right? Like if you don't practice that, then it'll be really hard for you in those big decisions to take the chance.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you have, a projected date that the book is going to come out, or not yet?
Not yet, not yet, but I do have my own goal to have the manuscript done by the end of this year. And then I definitely want to keep working on, I'm doing research as well. So I'm researching to my point I was making around storytelling and thesis around this point I was making around many decisions. So I think there's a little bit more to go, but it'll be a combination of, for me, part of my storytelling with me growing up in New Zealand, which is a very different world than growing up in North America. It's just different. New Zealand has the highest, I think, per capita entrepreneur in the world because they're not afraid to take chances. And why is that? Is because they have many opportunities when they're younger to fail, and who cares if you don't make it, right? There's a lot more of that mentality. And so just that's something I want to build into the story, is some of that how I was raised can really lead to where some of the direction I've gone, and also for other Kiwis as well.
Yeah. Do you have an example of that? How kids are taught to fail when they're younger in New Zealand?
Well, I guess I could use myself as an example that, when I was young, while I had a very disciplined family, father, I was left to my own devices. And what I mean by that, it was a safe environment to do that. Let's just be clear. So from the time I was 8 or 9, I ran to school 5 miles on my own. If I missed the bus, I had to run to school. And by the way, my father was the principal of that school, so he could have given me a ride, but no. If I missed the bus, I had to run to school. But then that led to me becoming a really good cross country runner because I did all this running. But my point is, it was mostly around being, how do I put it? Being allowed to fail and figure it out myself and create resilience around failure. And that was by giving me freedom to make decisions for myself. And New Zealand's a safe place for the most part to do that, in an environment where, you've got a lot of relatives around and someone's always going to be there to help you out, sort of situation. But generally, you had to figure stuff out on your own. And, I have a number of examples like that, where I've had to just figure stuff out. And my parents were not around. Now, I was also in a different generation raised where there was no cell phones growing up. And so trying to get hold of people where you got into trouble was like really hard. So as another example, my father let me go horseback riding with my friends out the back of the farm in the middle of nowhere. Well, I got backed off the horse and broke my arm, and we were like miles away from the farmhouse. I had to walk back all that way with a broken arm because there was no way to get hold of anybody. Call my father, who I don't even know if I knew where he was, but he didn't come for 2 hours later. So I'm sitting there with a clearly broken arm. Just things like that where you just kind of left to your own devices to figure it out.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome. That's really interesting to hear from my perspective as a person that was extremely sheltered with helicopter parents, like a completely different childhood for me. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Leonie, or one of your many stories. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience? Definitely also share where they can find you and more
oh,
ways to contact you.
well, I don't really have many places to find me right now, but what I am working on is that to generate that sort of opportunity to find me. But I think, just over time, you see my name's Leone Patterson, and you'll see that come up.
Okay.
Anybody who's listening to this will know that there'll be a book coming, and you'll see that this is Take a Chance on You. It's going to be called, and I'm going to be the author. So
Yeah.
more to come on that.
Awesome. Okay, and whenever you do get the links, you can let me know, and then I'll edit this and I can
Perfect.
put in the podcast, YouTube channel, whatever.
Cool. Sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leona. This is fun.
All right. Cool. Thank you.
Bye.